everybody, and welcome to my first ever video tutorial. Today I'm making Demon Slayer masks. So if you want to make one for yourself or maybe for a friend, then keep on watching because I'm going to show you just how I made them. In order to make the mask, I first needed to make myself a pattern. To do this, I started wrapping a dummy head with some aluminum foil to make the basic shape. I helped myself with some duct tape, that way it was easier for me to model it as I wanted. You can of course use this method to make any masks you want, not just the mask that I'm making right now. After you're done, you should have something looking like this. Now that you have your model done, it's the time to wrap it up with some cling film. After that, cover it with a good amount of duct tape. Now that everything is nice and covered in duct tape, it's time to make our pattern. Start out with drawing the basic shapes. I'm making just one side of the mask because I don't need the other one. I'm just going to mirror the pieces to make it perfectly symmetrical. And don't forget the registration marks. They're really important. You'll need them later while gluing the pieces together. The pattern should be looking something like this. Now carefully remove your pattern from the dummy using a craft knife, and be careful not to cut yourself. Now let's cut out the pieces and lay them flat. And we're done with the first part of our pattern making. Now we need to transfer the pieces onto some paper, and don't forget the registration marks. If you want to skip the part with the pattern making, then I got you covered, because I made a digital pattern for all the masks that I'm showing in this video. They're available on my Etsy shop, so definitely go check them out. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. Now, let's move on to crafting. If you chose to use my digital pattern, then here's what you need to do. After downloading the file, open it with Adobe Acrobat Reader and select Actual Size when printing. After that, cut your pattern out. Trace the pieces onto 5mm EVA foam and add the registration marks that I told you about earlier. And cut them out. And here's a tip for the ears. Make a beveled edge on the back, that way they'll stay properly on the mask. I did that with a craft knife, but you can do that with a Dremel. So far, so good. Time to glue them together. Apply a thin layer of contact glue onto each edge. Wait for it till it's not tacky anymore, then connect the pieces carefully using the registration marks as your guide. After gluing everything together, use your heat gun to heat up the material and shape it with your hands. That way, you bring your mask into shape and make it look nicer. It should look something like this. Use the Dremel to Dremel down the seams. That way it will be easier to cover them up later. After that, sand the mask with fine sanding paper to make it nice and smooth. I then glued some details on, but that's totally optional. After that, I used my wood burning iron to make the mouth. I also used the wood burning iron to make the scar on Sabito's mask. I really like the texture, so I think it turned out pretty okay, but if you don't like it, then you can just draw it on. Now we have all the details that we need. Next, use quick seal to fill the gaps. I used some water to smooth out the material. Quick seal shrinks as it dries, so you might need to use more than one layer. Time for priming. I'm using Plasti-Dip. Wait for it to dry, then spray it with white spray paint. Now draw the details with acrylic paint. I needed 3 layers of paint to achieve the color that I wanted. After that, I sprayed all my masks with varnish to make them shiny. At this point, the masks are pretty much done, but if you want to add a little more detail, then I'll show you how I did the eyes. I cut out a few pieces of white mesh, which I glued together and added to the back of the masks. I used contact glue for this one, but you can use whatever glue you want. I then used my acrylic paints to draw in the eyes, and that was pretty much it. Now you have a pretty cool Demon Slayer mask for your next costume.